Good evening. I'm Laura Garcia, Managing Editor of the San Antonio Report. Welcome to our final event of CityFest 2025. And this one is More Than a Game, How Small Businesses Bring San Antonio's Sports and Entertainment District to Life. So I'm super excited. I love everybody on here, and I want to hear what they have to say about this. So we have on our stage today, we have San Antonio's, we'll start over here. We have Chef Johnny Hernandez. So I'm sure you've tried his food, La Gloria, and et cetera, et cetera. It's amazing. We have our city manager, Erik Walsh, and we have, I'm like, clap for Johnny too. No.
Team City. Team City.
And then we have Jennifer Beckman of Rerouted 210 Urban Winery, which is right here in Hemisphere. Woo! And of course, Jody Bailey Newman of the Friendly Spot, which is amazing. So can y'all tell me, let's briefly go through, just tell me a little bit about yourself, very short, and about your business or your role right now.
Well, you've said in the restaurant business, but we also are community partners with the city, with programming across there at La Vita and the village of La Vita. So, you know, we have locations in the airport and the Frost Center, but very involved in the community. We have a nonprofit called Kitchen Campus, a youth education program on the west side of San Antonio. And right now we're setting up for San Antonio Day of the Dead.
Yeah.
Right, our festival that honors the tradition of a pre-Hispanic tradition that we're using as a way to engage tourism and locals and share our culture. So it's an exciting time. So we make sure everyone gets out to tomorrow's the parade. Then we go into 2 days of a lot of cultural immersion, music, and events.
Yeah, tomorrow's the River Parade, right? The one
Yes.
River, which is amazing. Erik, tell us about you.
So Erik Walsh, City Manager, San Antonio. The City Manager, whether you're Castroville or San Antonio, is responsible for the operations and personnel and financial matters of our corporation. We have over 13,000 employees. We have over $4 billion a year budget and do a variety of things and services from construction and streets, but public safety and the airport and the library system. So I've been a city manager for almost 7 years now. And some days it feels like 7 days and some days it feels like 77 years. But
I can imagine.
I love what I do and I love the people I work with. And I report to the mayor and the council. The mayor and council are our board of directors, and it's a challenging job, and we got a great team. So looking forward to the conversation.
Well, thank you for being here. So let's hear about Jennifer.
My name is Jennifer Beckman. I own Rerouted 210 here in Hemisphere. I drink for a living. We opened in February of 2021 during the snowstorm that we had with a long delay after COVID. I produce Texas wines using 100% Texas grown fruit. We produce in Fredericksburg. We serve here in Hemisphere. We take a really unique approach to the way that we package. A lot of our packaging we do only in keg and serve in filled growler bottles to go. It eliminates about 85% of our glass waste annually. So thousands of bottles a year that we have just removed from landfills. But we are happy to be here in Hemisphere. It's been a really amazing 4.5 years, and we're excited to keep going.
Very nice. And Jody, you live here in this area, but your business is a little bit down the road in Southtown, right?
My name is Jody Bailey Newman, and I'm in the bar business. I'm a bar owner here in San Antonio. I'm a small business advocate and a volunteer for Launch SA, which the director walked in, Matthew Espinoza. So I want to give him a shout out. And that's how Erik and I met, actually, on the board of Launch SA before he was the city manager. So I'm a small business advocate and volunteer mentor bar owner, and I guess relevant to today, I live about a block and a half from the proposed arena site, and I'm excited for the development.
Yay! Okay, so I see that we're filling out a little bit. So everyone in this room had to navigate some sort of construction, probably to find a parking spot to get here, to make it today. So I hope the signs helped outside.
Even the city manager.
Right? Everybody had to. So I wanted to start off with that question. The Spurs' current lease at the Frostbank Center is up in 2032. I'm like doing the math. Okay, that means that if there's going to be a downtown arena, it will need to be built quickly. So Erik, obviously the county's portion of funding is currently on the ballot, and we'll see how that all plays out. But the city and county have indicated a desire to keep negotiating with the Spurs, whether Prop B passes or not. What is your sense of the planned timeline for construction of the new arena, not to mention the sports and entertainment district in the hemisphere?
So let me give you an analogy, and I'll use the airport. So in November of 21, the council approved the terminal development plan. And if you drive by the airport, there are 3 cranes. We're under construction. That building will open up in the second quarter of 2028. So I give you that analogy because large developments like that take time.
Mhm.
In the airport's case, you had to negotiate with the airlines, and we had to design it, and then we got to construct it. So we feel that there's at least a 60-month timeline to design and build that building. And then you've also got to think through, I mean, what depending on what happens in November, we have a term sheet with the Spurs. It's not a contract. It's not a final thing with all the details. It's got the major milestone components in there and the obligations. And we did that purposely so that everybody up front knew, what skin was in the game. And so if we are in a position to have to negotiate that agreement, that also contemplates the county's contribution. Our best guess is that would probably take 8 or 9, 10 months. And so, we'd start, again, depending on what happens this fall, we'd start in the January, February timeframe. So you're looking at this time next year before there's a completion of that. So projects like that take a long time. And I'll add, I think the council still needs to have, I owe the council more information and follow up as relates to the expansion of the convention center.
Mm-hmm.
Because in an ideal world, if there's construction happening back over behind us in that area, it makes a lot of sense for it to be happening at the same time.
What's interesting is Jasper reported that all the other major cities in Texas, their convention centers, and they're all being renovated and upgraded, all of them.
Yeah.
And so it's sort of like is there a sense that we need to make sure that our facilities can sort of keep up?
We know we need more exhibit space. We got plenty of meeting rooms and ballrooms. We need more exhibit space. And VSA, Visit San Antonio, kind of quantified, minus the forgotten years of COVID, how many clients did we turn away because we couldn't do 2 events at the same time because of exhibit space. And they quantified it. It was $500 million worth of business we weren't able to service. So when you look at conventions book in cities 4, 5, 6 years out, and when you look at our bookings through 2031 timeframe, we're doing relatively well, and even more so higher than a historical perspective, because those other cities are under construction. But when you start looking at 2032, 2033, 2034, we dip. And we dip because those conventions are going to look for what's brand new. And so I feel like we've initiated that conversation with the council. It was the previous council. We've had a preliminary conversation with this council. In early 26, we've got to come back and start talking about that. Because, again, if you're not talking about doing a complete rebuild like Austin or Dallas, we're contemplating an expansion on the western edge of the convention center. So we're still servicing clients and going up, but that's going to take time. You can't just flip the switch and say, next year it'll be ready.
And to be clear, that is part of the Project Marvel plan, right? That's one piece of it.
Yes. Yep.
So, Johnny, business owners, you know how disruptive construction can be. What is your perspective on the challenges and opportunities for a downtown district like this?
Yeah, I mean, I think I always like to understand, if I'm personally evaluating the impact of COVID and how complex that affected different projects throughout our community, our city, that affected business. And when I think of Project Marvel, or let's say the Spurs Arena, I've been surrounded by construction for my career. Okay, whether it's Flores or it's on Main, it's on I-10, at the airport, at Pearl. I mean, I've been surrounded by construction, and I think that there's a lot that we've learned as a city on how to better improve and manage, and there's so much we've learned from the last few years that are sometimes you put the machine of construction in motion and it's not that easy to fix, right? And I understand that because I've built small projects. I can't imagine larger historical projects, but when I look at the arena, I believe that because there's some it's an area that can be contained, kind of like Pearl. We've done a great job of managing construction. Pearl has, with the businesses there, and I think there will be a lot of careful thought in the planning when the Spurs Arena, ultimately comes down into Hemisphere. So I think there's a lot of time to be dedicated to that process. I'm excited about the housing ideas that they have for affordable housing, for the parking plan, the transportation plans. There's so much discussion around how to improve and make things better. I think we understand already clearly the complexities as it impacts us, because we're going to see it on Saturday, right, or tomorrow with the parade.
Muertos Fest, yeah.
So, I mean, I think the moving forward, I think we have great leadership, we have time on our hands, and we have to be cautious and careful. And I think there's a lot of smart people really looking that are knowledgeable of these things. So I have a lot of confidence that we can manage that properly. And I'm excited for small business. I mean, I think the opportunity of this arena happening in Hemisphere is transformational in a powerful way for small business. And it's I say to folks who ask me, Hemisphere is an opportunity for our city and us to curate something that is of San Antonio and by San Antonio. And as a chef, being in different developments, you can't say that about our river. You can't say that about other parts of our community, part of our city. Hemispheres is San Antonio. Then I think our leadership and our community, we call the shots on what comes together as a hyper-local destination that is appealing to everyone who wants something unique and wants to experience what's local and and the small business that make it interesting. So exciting.
Thank you, Johnny. So speaking of local, it's in your name, 210. Jennifer, tell us a little bit about some of the challenges and what is your perspective on this moment?
Well, it's really interesting because obviously we hear on a daily basis, we have people that ask for our opinion. And quite frankly, I'm upfront, I am not a sports fan. I have no love for a stadium. That is not my first choice of what I would personally attend, but it is what works. And what I think that we're coming down to, the question that we hear over and over again about either Project Marvel and or the construction happening here in front is ease of access and thoughtfulness, something that we're saying over and over again, but we haven't yet seen implied in how we're operating, right? So ease of access to these business areas. If there's construction with the stadium and the expansion, which is greatly needed and we're deeply in support of, it's something that has to be thought through to to have a light footprint on impacting the businesses. And this is something that we need to see going forward. Now, I feel confident. I very much feel that something that is underestimated and underexpressed is how large Hemisphere actually is. And we're looking at almost, 14 acres of land in total. And we saw with the Final Four, which was clearly impactful in this area, we saw the building of a live stage. We saw 2-story VIP areas set up, a vendor village, Ferris wheel, and we saw 30,000 people roll in. We never once saw a truck in Hemisphere. So that building of this area, I feel like during the demolition of the Institute of the Americas, we've not seen that impact, that rollover. So I feel like the building can be thoughtfully done in stages in which are very lightly impactful towards the businesses. And that's the number one thing that I think everyone is looking at. How do we do this with a light impact towards what's already existing?
So that in this transition period, we can still come and enjoy and work and play here in this area.
Right. I mean, small business, there's no small business that can't survive years of damage, right? We're all looking at, especially now growing with what we're seeing in the economy, what we see with, expenses rising for small business. Small businesses have a very short leash. So to be able to succeed and to have local clientele that's willing to put up with the level of what we see, that's amazing. That's a great statement on San Antonio and San Antonians. But we have to make sure that we're giving the ease of access. And ease of access is what's going to allow us to continue. And that's what creates the ability to grow and thrive for the businesses on both sides. So hoping that we have that education, that conversation. We need to know what our access is, and our problems are coming up to make planning and strategizing for continued growth.
And Jody, can you weigh in on that as well?
Yeah, I definitely think consideration is maybe the term we've used. And I understand that it's hard. We can't grant a small business out of their entrance being blocked for months. The margin in small business is not that you could go to the city and say, hey, I need, 80% of my revenue to help me. So we can't grant our way out of this. The majority of small business owners, local independents in this area are excited for improvements, excited to not worry about our sewer underneath our street possibly being damaged by something. But there has to be a balance, and that balance includes consideration for both the operators and staff of that business, and then the folks that want to come and have a beer at my place. And we have signed up for one drink at a time. Give me the opportunity to sell that person a drink or a friendly burger, and I'll do it. So how do we make that happen in such a way that also we get brand new, beautiful sidewalks and sewers and all the stuff underneath the street that I don't know about? How do we make sure all of that is world class? And unfortunately, that's Erik and his team's job, right? And so what can we do? We can give the most information possible to them to help get us through it, because we do not get through it individually. And that will be the expectation that I have for the Spurs Arena, with the downtown arena, and then the other things that are clumped in to be called Project Marvel. We're looking for world-class project management on this. So how can we help get that? We want the top contractor. We want people who love San Antonio the level we love it. And of course, I love Southtown. And so what does that look like? What's the considerations for my area when we do that? And then also, we like it when the Spurs win, right? I mean, these are all things that if we could have it all, that's what we want. And so I look forward to working towards that.
Erik, can you talk a little bit about, we of course, we mentioned that the convention center upgrades, renovations would be part of Project Marvel. Can you kind of just lay out what all is included in the Project Marvel thing, you know?
So it's designed to be a broad plan that encompasses from Alamo Street to Cherry Street. And you know, as we laid it out publicly to the council last November, you know, that broad vision is a guide for the next 12, 13 years. I mean, you can't do everything at once. It's not possible. And there isn't the money to do that. But so it encompasses development of Hemisphere Park. That was originally approved and thought through and approved by the council in 2012.
Mhm.
And we have, I mean, you see the western edge of the park has changed. You've got retail and housing and new park space, and but you get less than halfway through Hemisphere Park, and from that point to 37, it looks a lot like it has for the last 25 years, which was not the original concept that the council thought of when they approved that plan in 2012. And so development, expansion of the convention center in a thoughtful manner. The city owns has ownership over the old federal courthouse, the wood courthouse, which we received in a swap with the federal government when we gave them old police headquarters to build their new courthouse. It's a historical building. You can't tear it down. And so we've contemplated a music venue.
Okay.
And then you've got the Alamo Dome.
So we have lots of music venues. Would this be like a small
It would
theater? Would it be Taylor Swift size? I mean,
no, not
okay. Just because we've got so many music venues. So what are we talking about with?
So that building was originally a venue during the '68 Hemisphere.
Okay.
And so anywhere between 4,000 and 5,000, 4,500 seats in there. There are 35, 36, 38 events we have every year at the Alamo Dome of that magnitude.
Okay.
And we're air conditioning and lighting up a 65,000 seat stadium to do it. So it's for smaller events. It could be incorporated into events that come out of the convention center with groups. The original concept talks about redevelopment of the parking lots, the surface lots around the Alamo Dome that would appropriately blend in with the neighborhoods to the east. And so it's a broad vision that has a lot of different components. And you know, it has a convention center hotel, which
It wouldn't be knocking down. It would like that. It would be
no, would be adding a
brand new
convention center
one.
hotel.
Okay.
For block room capacity, and that's been a big topic of discussion because that would go, you know, in the front step of the door of the convention center where the chilled water plant is at, and but all those things, and I think I shared the first time we showed the vision to the council, I think I said we don't have the money to do any of this. Like all of this is like big picture stuff.
This is
Right?
like
This is big
dream.
picture. Yeah. So.
Okay.
You know, we're going to have to work through that. The priority for the city is the convention center because it is a big part of our downtown economy. And the other part of that is what do we do with potentially an NBA arena? And that's why those two have surfaced up to the first on the list.
Mhm.
But we still have a great deal of work to do. And I want to echo something that I think that both Jennifer said, it has to be done thoughtfully. And I think there are a lot of examples in my 7 years as city manager. Alamo Street started as a 2012 bond program.
Yeah.
And then the city said, let's do more. And we added it to a 2017 bond program. And nice new streets are cool,
Mhm.
right? And it's going to look great. But as I look back to the 2012 bond program, and the same thing around Market Square. It was a 2012 bond program.
Yeah.
Then they said, let's make it bigger. We'll make it a 2017. Bigger is not always better. And it's got to be done thoughtfully. And it should be done logically. And I think we're going to have to be thoughtful about that. regardless of what happens in November, we're going to have to be thoughtful.
So something that we also, like the impact of the expansion of the convention center. I'm not sure that people ultimately, and I frequently hear the response of the convention center is not fully booked. And I'm like, how many conventions do you think are happening between now and January? And I asked somebody this recently, and they said 12. And I said, it's 188.
Right.
And the
Big
amount,
business.
it's those big conventions that get the flash and the attention.
Yeah.
But a lot of times it's those small pieces that are making up those nuts and bolts and the dollars. So we see that rollover immediately into our businesses. I pointed out to Dr. Sook, earlier this summer in August, what is notoriously one of the slowest times of year for hospitality in San Antonio. We saw a direct increase of almost $8,000 that was 100% identifiably due to convention traffic. So when we see that in this local, that's not just local to Hemisphere, that's local to San Antonio.
Mhm.
That puts dollars in restaurants, in hotels, in hospitality, abounding above and beyond. Now, something else, in addition to like that growth of the convention center, something that I don't think we give enough press to. We've now seen Hemisphere grow in 4 quadrants, right? We have Yanaguana Garden, which
Mhm.
we're basically sitting in.
Mhm.
We have Civic Park, which is now relatively complete, but finishing. We have Tower Park, which is still going to be improved, but is, stable. This other quadrant of the park that we're talking about now sits empty. So it sits dark. It sits empty. There's no working lights. So we have billions of dollars of investment in 3 quadrants of this 15-acre city park. And now we have this dark space that is attracting crime. We've seen shootings. We've seen crime run through the dark area. It's going to be the drag that pulls down the rest of the investment. If we don't develop that quadrant, whether I want a stadium or not, that's of no, that's not
An arena, right?
arena of
Close.
anything, right? So,
I'm not a sports person either, but
It does-
I don't want us to
does
drag.
need
I don't want them to
develop.
drag us for that.
right?
Yeah.
Like I'm just not a sports ball person, but
Yeah,
like it's got to develop. And again, arenas are traditionally what works. That is what's there. But we do need to see development in that 4th quadrant of the park. Otherwise, it stands to ruin the investment of the other 3 quadrants.
Johnny, when I think about this development and I think of the change, and I've lived here in San Antonio for many years, and I think about how the Hemisphere and downtown and how it has changed so much from when I was a little girl. Can you talk a little bit about the history, this moment right now? It's got to be amazing to come out here and just see these beautiful the calaveras and everything, the installations.
Well, I mean, we've made a lot of progress, I think, as a cultural community, right? And I've spent a lot of time on the VSA Commission, 10 years. I was appointed by, even before Julian, it was the judge, Hardberger appointed me. So I was 10 years on the VSA Commission. I learned so much about downtown, always certainly dedicated to community and culture and my love of our Mexican roots as a chef. But we're a tourism. The tourism is a huge part of our economy. I think it's our 3rd largest economy. We employ so many. We've invested so much in education. You can see the progress. I remember being a commissioner and pushing. It was Scott White was the CEO of the commissioner. He was before Cassandra, and I'd be at my meeting with a chef coat, and Arthur Coulombe was the chair, and he's like, "Chef, what do you think?" I said, "Well, I think we need to promote our local chefs." And we didn't have too many. We had 3 or 4 local chefs. I didn't even have a restaurant. I was just a caterer at the time. And I see the progress we've made. There's been huge investments. Pearl was a big game changer for us for hospitality. But while Pearl was coming together and happening, we were working hard at St. Philip's, building a $40 million culinary center, bringing the CIA to San Antonio, doing hospitality education at UTSA, Now it's at Incarnate Word. So we've been building a workforce to support this quality of place, which is important to retain our workforce, to attract corporations to establish themselves here. So I see the progress. I was talking to an employee this morning and giving her some advice. And so I remember when I was a student in high school, I worked in a cafe serving Tex-Mex food, growing up in a cafe, in my dad's cafe. And I was so proud to get my first job at the Marriott River Center because the Riverwalk wasn't built yet. The River Center Marriott wasn't built. And I wanted to wear the chef coat and the chef hat. And then I go to the hotel and what was it? It was another Mexican restaurant in the Marriott. I went from here to there. I was just in a chef hat and a chef coat. So I felt proud. But I look back at all the progress. You know, we have this amazing chef community. We're UNESCO City of Gastronomy. We have World Heritage Missions, and we've built this cultural destination. You know, now the next step, to me, in my opinion, it's art, it's music, and sporting districts are the future of our can be a critical part of our future because we need you need that youthful energy. We promote our city, and I was saying about Arthur Coulomb and the SeaWorld in Fiesta, Texas, they were promoting our destination as a family destination, as a cultural destination was kind of the next step. Now the future is in the youth and this whole demographic that we do not even appeal to, okay? The Riverwalk, and I mean, I feel that the youth, that entertainment district will provide the future into what is our sweet spot for art, for culture and family, right? Together.
On that point, so her friendly spot has a playground. And I remember when that happened, I was like, oh my gosh. I was a new mom and I was like, that is just so cool. And so, but it's like those things that are going to kind of like change things. But to Jennifer's point, she talked about when you have areas that are neglected or that are left alone there, then you have, you know, the potential for crime and stuff. And it's like, it's as Erik says, you kind of have to think of everything and try to like get everything going all at once because you can't do this and then not think about, well, we might need more patrols. Well, we might need the infrastructure, the lighting, the roadway, you know, and it's like sort of, it's just this big thing, you know?
But it's a unique opportunity. I mean, everybody, if you take 2 steps back, there are very few major cities in this country that have that much acreage vacant and available, right? Number one. Number two, downtowns that have 15,000 hotel rooms within walking distance of that vacant area. And number three, it primarily being city-owned, right? There's no other landowner. And number four, it's surrounded by public assets that we have to maintain and are part of our economy anyway, the convention center, the tower, and the Alamo Dome. So there's a reason why we started talking about this. There are 37 cities and counties in this country that are either in the construction, design, discussion, or planning of similar entertainment districts. And you know, we've got a unique opportunity here. And that's why, because otherwise that back quarter is gonna be vacant.
Will devolve.
Right off the highway. So somebody driving down 37, gonna look, they're driving north, they're gonna look to the left, and there's like a big empty spot in downtown San Antonio.
So we've heard a lot about the district and this surrounding area part we've been talking about this night, but not a lot of specifics about who the developer and the vendors will be. Is there a plan to bring local businesses into this? Is that something that's already in the works? Have you already identified folks that you want to work with? Like,
no, and I, you know, I think depending on what happens during the election, as we negotiate those agreements, I think it's going to be clear that the Spurs have made it clear that they intend to oversee the construction of that building.
okay.
And within our term sheet, and that term sheet's online, we agreed with them that there would be utilization of local businesses, especially on the construction side.
Yes.
And I was at a meeting the other day where I heard the Spurs talk about what that meant to them. So I think there's more detail to be figured out on the, you know, if the city on the first priority project for the convention center process we haven't gone through all that. We're still going through feasibility and really providing some of the data that Jennifer talked about to the council and the public. But if and when we get to that point, we'll go through that public process, and those things are super important to the council, the mayor and the council, and would be important to the staff as we go through that process. But nobody's been pre-selected. There's
Okay.
probably a lot of folks that are interested and would be interested, but we haven't gone through that.
Okay, because some of the criticism was that that this Project Marvel thing kind of came out of nowhere, and that had been like discussed in closed doors, and then all of a sudden now we're finding out about it, and so there was that sort of like, what is this? Like, all these people were planning without public input, kind of thing. Like, I feel like that's what's sort of taking over right now, the conversation.
Well, it was certainly part of the conversation, but I mean, I guess I would say it's part of my job to make sure that we figure out how we expand and finance and construct an airport or a convention center or the Alamo Dome, and not just look at it in increments. Yeah, sure, we did all that stuff, and we had the first public conversation with the council last November. But that's like our obligation. I'm responsible for those buildings. And knowing that those things were happening in other competitor cities, I wouldn't be doing my job if we weren't planning. And then I chuckle when, people say that. Well, heck, I'm from San Antonio, and people have been talking about the Spurs Arena downtown since they moved into the SBC Arena. So it's not like a huge secret. But there's a public process to that. There's a lot of due diligence that we have to do on our end. And I wouldn't think that I'd be doing my job, or the staff wouldn't be doing their jobs, if we weren't trying to see beyond the next 6 months. Again, these projects, like the airport analogy, they take 6, 7 years, 8 years from concept to opening. And you just can't snap your finger.
Jennifer, I'm sorry.
So in discussing, given that we're at the point of vote, I will say that there has been only exactly one discussion with stakeholders, meaning businesses within this area. So, and that discussion was not a two-way discussion. It was, we would like to hear your views. And our questions have not yet been answered about really anything pertaining, which in fairness, I understand there are a lot of complexities that go with this bond, with what the growth will be, what the planning will be. But some of the things that you've asked, we've been incredibly lucky to have a councilwoman who's incredibly involved with local businesses. So our councilwoman has been a constant source of communication back and forth. As a business owner in this area, we've had very little communication. So some of the concerns that we've expressed are, number one, we continuously refer to this as the sports and entertainment district. And we are, by nature, we are the Hemisphere district.
Yeah.
We've spent many years creating Hemisphere, removing the park as a district, only the point at which it makes sense to say, no, we're going to be something different. So our concerns, include under the weight of fandom, and sports fandom, becoming Spurs Park, when we're sitting in a theater that has a tremendous impact on the community and has an enormous amount of history. In a park that has history, that goes back to 1968 in the World's Fair. And we're hosting events continuously, like the Muertos Festival this weekend. It's so culturally beautiful and relevant. So how do we stop the growth of what has now taken close to 10 years to build as this cultural center and say, we're going to become sports park? And now, is that, again, the evolution needed? Yes, but we have to find a balance in between. That, again, communication between small businesses moving into this, whether they'll be in the arena or not. We've been assured that there are things in place that eliminate national chains. But we've asked, but will you have things in place to eliminate competitive businesses from a direct district? And that's not yet been answered. So these are things that we're hoping to have more clarification on, have more open discourse about.
like to respond?
And none of that has been decided.
Yeah.
Right? None of that has even been discussed. So, and really, what I would contemplate is that those are the details that go into an actual agreement.
Right.
But those are a lot of great questions, but I don't want you to think that there have been decisions made that
Oh,
there's
yeah.
no change. I mean, you go look at other cities, and those are topical areas that they've discussed
Right.
and negotiated, and I suspect would be issues for us to be dealing with.
I think it's
I mean,
super important to remind ourselves that this is a living, breathing document,
Mhm.
this term sheet, right? This is what we are starting with. It's cool to not like it. It's cool to not like things on it. It's okay. I do feel like the discussion hasn't, or the campaign, whatever we're calling it, hasn't been really, really open to feedback and these types of things. But I think if we look at it as a whole, this is something that is going to benefit our community, and we still have a lot of say on how. We have a lot of say on what we want to see, you know? I mean, I know we've spoken about parking structures being very important to the neighborhood. Just different things. Just because they're not included now doesn't mean we're not going to get that.
Yeah.
We have to stay engaged and not become so frustrated with this process to get this vote that we don't engage after the vote happens.
That's the time to
Yeah.
engage.
Yeah, that's
Chef
it.
Johnny, could you weigh in on that? I loved how Jennifer talked about the cultural, and then
Yeah.
I'm thinking about when I go to Spurs games and I see the big cantina, and
Well, look, it's I know it takes about 4 to 5 to 6 years to develop a restaurant concept. I can't imagine, the Hemisphere District, the complexity of it and all the components of it and the quadrants of it. But, I always reflect, I was, very involved with other developments in our community, and, or Zachary and Sunset years ago, 30 years ago. We started the master plan at Pearl in 2004, and it was a 5-6 year study before they turned a single thing, and then there was the planning, the discussion. It's very to create to create. Pearl is a great example of a development that was very thoughtful, and there was a time, and we didn't get everything right, and we're still learning. So
the
again,
parking makes me think of
Yeah,
that because
so-
there was all this criticism on the parking, and then they tweaked it so that now that there's options that are more affordable.
So that's a 20-year project, right? It's a 20-year project that we've been there. And but think of we didn't get it all right. We're still working on it. But when I opened La Gloria, I have friends in the restaurant business who tell me, "Why would you open there? There's nothing there." There's homelessness. And I did the same thing at Fruteria. I'm a little crazy, right? So I had a homeless person outside of Fruteria when I opened, and then Pearl as well. It was Andrew and I by ourselves for about 10 years. But I mean, you look at it today, look at Broadway.
Yeah.
There was homeless and prostitution, and I mean, it was terrible, that section of Broadway. Nobody wanted that real estate. Look at it now. It's such a great example of what is happening throughout our city and the media value that it's brought. It's powerful, and that's the opportunity I see in Hemisphere. I mean, I think I'm excited that that we're taking. I mean, again, the complexity of the discussion. I mean, we talked for 2 years when I was on the UTSA advisory board committee to figure out what to do with the land, and and that was 4 years, 5 years ago. So these things take such a long time because they're complex, and I have no doubt that that a sporting entertainment district can be woven into the fabric of how we communicate. I just know that from tourism and from small business and from economic development, I've seen so many great examples of that. I've traveled all over the world promoting our city, and you can see great development, and then you can see bad development. And I think that we have a lot of knowledge, and we have a lot of friends that we can lean on for, make sure we get things right. And my dream and my hope and my wish is that Hemisphere is something hyper-local that is filled with small businesses, that attracts tourism, that creates jobs and economic development. And it becomes, one of our signatures of our community. There are very few cities that, like you said, have that much real estate to develop in such a critical piece. I mean, we had IPW here. They were blown away and these are the top international meeting planners in the world. And they were blown away at the walkability of our downtown. And here I am serving 5,000 people with a bunch of other chefs. And there's construction here, and there's dirt here, and there's a bulldozer over there, and a pile of dirt. And they were so happy enjoying an event,
Food was good.
But I mean, we share our story and we share our future. And they're excited to come back. And I always invite them to come back. I mean, just 2 days ago, I was at the Alamo speaking to a convention group. And this is a convention in 2030, and this is 75,000 people. This group, these 4 people, will make the decision on 75,000 people that will come to San Antonio in 2030, and we're selling our city. So, our VSA is selling, our city through this is what we're going to be in 2030, and we have great ways to articulate that, and in our community. Chef community, hospitality community are, we're on the front line selling our city, even though there's construction.
Yeah.
But I think these big conventions plan so far in advance that they understand, right? And we've been through it, and we've gone through Final Four, and I think, maybe not without a bumper bruise, but they left with so many positive, with so much positive feedback.
But I think about you, Chef Johnny, and you take these business risks, and I love it. And then you pivot with the small business owners that have maybe one bar or one, and all their assets are in this one. I just think about that challenge of, you have close off access to their business. Then what do they do for the meantime of those few years where we're in this transition? Would you be able to talk a little bit about that, Jody?
I mean, I think they close, right? I mean, unfortunately, that's what we see.
We're seeing it.
Yeah, and they're our friends. They're people who have gone through Launch SA with us. And so that's why that consideration is so important. How do we make sure someone can get to their front door? And maybe it takes, getting a group of people together and walking it and figuring it out, and stickers on the sidewalk and signs and all the different things. Maybe it takes social media influencers. It takes all of us. But I do think that if you're given a time frame, you can figure it out, right? But if it goes double that time, the resources are slim to assist and to really understand. And so I think they close. Is what happens, but maybe there's a way we can not have that happen, and that's what I think we need to talk about and be open to talking about it, and have that feedback going back and forth is really important.
Thank you so much. Yes,
we kind of keep skirting around to the P word. Okay. I don't think we can have any of these conversations at all without talking about parking. And parking has been one of the most consistent points of contention with growth. And whether it be the entertainment district, the Pearl, we hear it over and over again. And I will say, in full disclosure, I'm not from here. I lived in Chicago for 20 years. And even then, I moved here in 2008. Even at that time, it was $100 to park in downtown Chicago.
Yeah.
And trust me when I say I would walk 9 blocks to not pay that amount. Nobody wants to pay for parking, but for a city this large, the first time that my husband brought me downtown in San Antonio and we parked at one of the River Center, and I was like, whoa, Rockefeller, you need to calm down. Like, we're not going to park somewhere this close. And I realized it was $4, and I was like, oh my God. So we've had very inexpensive downtown parking for a very long time. And unfortunately, that is something that's going to be a very big learning curve, I think, for the community. But, nobody wants to pay for parking. But that is something that will disappear. We are going to see that with growth disappear very quickly. So the more we're looking at, I feel like we need to better discuss ways to advertise a slower shift or, a grace period or whatever it may be. Ways during construction cycles to offer free parking to locals. I've pitched several times to city council a passport, an annual passport, pay once and park in every city lot for the year free, right? But we do see this as a really intensely contentious point
Sure.
with growth in downtown. And we talk about growth and what that means, and something else that comes up, they're like, we don't have high paying jobs. We will never, ever attract high paying companies or jobs or positions in a city that doesn't have entertainment districts. That just doesn't happen. We know this as a fact. We know this as, unless there are things for people to enjoy, be here, do, entertain themselves with, go to restaurants, we won't grow as a city. But again, that parking conversation, we can't have any of these conversations without that.
That's a good idea. I like the passport.
That Jennifer and Jody were at a meeting. Jennifer hosted a meeting that I was at a month ago or so, and one of the things I shared, she's absolutely right, and really irrespective of an NBA arena, that's an issue, because if that dark corner, which can't be vacant, it's developed, we have those infrastructure issues, and I would consider parking an infrastructure issue.
Mhm.
We have those right now. And so it's not like it's a byproduct of an arena. We have those right now.
Yeah.
And I don't, it's not just because of a particular development in Hemisphere Park. That issue we have both in this southeast corner of downtown, and I think we'll have it in the northwest corner of downtown up soon.
Did you want to say something, Jody?
Yeah, so in 2018, we got a great residential parking program in Lavaca that was pitched by neighbors that are architects. After we had sort of received this presentation about you would get 40 scratch-off tickets to give your friends, and Lavaca is like party central. And so the neighbors were like, 40? That's like 2 weekends for me. And so we did this where one side is public, one side is permitted. Each block got to decide which block there was. My side is always public, so y'all can always park in front of my house. But we recently, over the past several years, we can tell when parking is $65 at the Alamo Dome and when it's $25.
You feel it. Yeah.
We can tell from sitting on our front porch and watching the panic ensue of drivers trying to find a place to park because they thought they were going to park at the Alamo Dome, but it was $65. And so they're coming in to our neighborhood and they're moving the barricades and they're coming in and they're doing that. And so these are the types of things, just simple information, providing that information. And sometimes people are afraid to give feedback because they don't want to be the squeaky wheel. But if you can say that and pass that along, then all of a sudden when we're talking to the Spurs and they're putting out the RFP for parking in their structure, we can say, well, what's going to be the cost? Because if the cost isn't fair, we're going to feel the impact.
Yeah.
If the cost is fair, whatever they determine that is, I'll be walking to the games.
Sure.
But whatever they figure that out and see, I think if we can talk about these things and put it out. Eric and I had a conversation about 2 parking structures and I went, I love it. And he was like, what? And I'm like, yeah, I love that. Just the idea of that.
The idea of parking.
Yes.
So, you guys are all incredibly busy, and thank you so much for spending all this time with us. I know it's a busy night, but I do want to get to one last question. Eric, the mayor had brought up the idea of, with this federal funding landscape, we got the shutdown, everything, the land bridge to the east side. Is that something that you can tell us a little bit more about? I mean, are we hopeful that we're going to still have federal support on that end? What are we going to do with that?
Well, we can dream big, right? I mean,
We're still
go
dreaming,
back.
okay.
I'm going to go back to the broader vision, and the prior federal administration Kansas City, Austin, Cincinnati. There were a whole host of cities that were pursuing these federal grants that require a local match to reconnect over highways. And so it was an opportune moment for us. As with everything else, like things are cyclical. So maybe sometime in the future, it would require a lot of coordination with TxDOT. You know, if anybody's watching, the TxDOT in Austin had an agreement to stitch over 35, then they decided, no, they're not going to do that. So,
And then what happened on Broadway?
yeah, it's going to have to be a long-term conversation. I will say that if we do parking structures, right, it'll be important in the south end of the Alamo Dome. It'll be important to do pedestrian bridges over the highway and keep people off at the street level back into Hemisphere Park. But you know, never say never. I think it's something that would be really unique and would have additional space, and it would connect the dome.
So there's no updates right now. You're not sure which way it's leaning, or
I don't think it's likely anytime soon.
okay.
But things are cyclical, right? And so we'll see.
We'll see.
I
Okay.
am not sad about shutting down. Like I would beg you not to shut down 37.
No, that would be.
So yeah,
I'm
that
sure
would
the
be.
federal government would
Build something
do
over
that
or under.
technically.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I hear you on that. That's my way to work. Thank you everybody for just this amazing conversation. I feel like I've learned so much and heard things that I hadn't really quite thought about. And I know that you know, the folks that are here and the folks that are going to be watching this video later are going to just really learn something, and it'll continue this discussion. So this is going to conclude our final panel of CityFest 2025. And I'd like to invite our business reporter, Jasper Kenzo Sundin. If you haven't met him, I hope you meet him very soon. We brought him here from he's from LA, but he was working the last few years under Report for America in Washington, the Washington that's over by Canada. I don't know. So he's lovely, and he's your guy for any business reporting.
Thanks, boss. Hey guys, thanks so much for coming out. Like Laura said, my name is Jasper. I'm the business reporter for the nonprofit newsroom at the San Antonio Report. For those of you in business, please reach out to me anytime. I don't want to take too much of that time though. I just want to bend your ears for a quick second. We are a reader-supported nonprofit newsroom. Our small staff, a lot of which are just over here. We work really hard to make sure you guys get the most important stories about your communities, along with essential civic engagement events like this one. And our members are a really big part of that effort. If you aren't a member of the San Antonio Report, that's fine, but you can join us in any way that works for your budget. Every little bit you're able to contribute matters, but monthly gifts are really important. They allow us to plan for the future and keep the lights on beyond just next week. So we have a membership table set up outside. Please stop by, talk to our wonderful business team, and then also please just hang out here, have a drink, enjoy happy hour. That's all for CityFest 2025, and have a great evening.
Thank you.